Hello and welcome to Corinthian Worship Center Black History Month presentation. I'm the pastor of Maurice Gay. I'm blessed and privileged you all to join us here online on Facebook and YouTube as we celebrate our heritage and our culture. This evening we have a guest deacon, Mark Turner from the St. James Missionary Baptist Church, who has a lot of information about African American history dealing with the Westport area. Westport area is mostly known for the bars and the partying and things of that nature, but there's a deep, rich heritage that's involved in that area he's going to share with us. First thing I can tell you is he's a member of a church that is celebrating being in existence for 151 years. So that right there has history within itself. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna quit talking. I'm gonna turn it over to Deacon Turner so he can share with us as we celebrate our heritage and our culture. Deacon Turner, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you too, Reverend Gay. It's definitely a privilege to be able to be here and share what God has done. We didn't keep the church going for 151 years. God kept it going.
Absolutely, yes.
And the interesting thing about the Steptoe area, that's what they ended up calling. I didn't know it was called Steptoe until I got older, but that was the name that was given to it. I have something that taking steps to record Steptoe Westport vanishing African American neighborhood. This was given to me by a Black historian, Joe Maddox. Okay. Joe passed away in 2017. One of the things that he helped spearhead was for our church to be a historic site in Kansas City, not because of the building, but because of the historic background. We're the last remnant of this neighborhood.
Oh,
now,
man.
The thing when you look at coming to Westport, I mean, people want to go to Kelly's and stuff like that. Kelly's has always been popular. Kelly's, when you look at the 1800s, Kelly's was the place that people that were going on the Oregon train and trail and the Santa Fe trail. When they wanted to get supplies, they stopped there to get their supplies. Now, also, they were able to stop there and buy slaves. Now, they still have the chains in the basement there of the slaves they had, because Missouri was a slave state, Kansas wasn't. So they were about a little over 2 miles away from the Kansas border. So they had to do that transaction there. Now, during this time, you had a lot of African Americans that settled in the Westport area, mainly because before there was Emancipation Proclamation, this was the only spot in Kansas City that if a slave say you were purchased for $200, you could work off your $200 and work off your freedom. Nobody had to give you your freedom. Only in Westport were you able to do that. So I think that was one of the biggest things that kept the migration there, because people were saying, this is the place that I was able to get free, So they were close. They did a lot of different things, more so in the labor aspect, as far as maybe plumbers, electricians. A lot of the women did day work. And the interesting fact is the women that they did day work for that were out on Ward Parkway and some of the more affluent areas in there, they bought the houses for their women that did day work, because it was easier coming to Westport that was close to the plaza than going all the way down to 27th Street, because at that time Blacks couldn't go past 27th Street. So this was a plus when you look at just some of the things that happened in the area. And this was really I haven't read this in a while, but a lot of it talks about what happened in the Steptoe area, and the name came from an antebellum African neighborhood in Kansas City, Missouri, that is about to vanish. And that was one of the things that I think we looked at becoming a historic site about a couple of years after that. And he's right, the area that's vanished mainly because we have parking lots there, and it's a bittersweet. We have parking lots because St. Luke's has one of the best heart, one of the best heart hospitals in the country. So people need some place to park. So we're looking at as some people, they didn't have to sell their homes, but they did, And when you look at St. James, we were started on 4023 Mill Street. Any of you that know where the Sunfresh market is on the Southwest Driveway, That's the road. Those were all houses back then. 4023.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now right next to the stable because there was a place called Manor Bakery. They delivered bread and all that stuff. Well, they were drawn by horses. Well, we stayed by the stable, and one of the older members, Miss Patton, told me it was just when it was hot out, there was such a smell because the horses were, right next door. So you know what horses are going to do
Yeah.
for a while.
Horses do what they do.
They would hurry up and try to get out of church. Now, what happened is Manor Bakery decided to expand. So they bought the church, and the money they gave us, that's where we moved to where we're at now at 508 West 43rd. The person that did that sold us the property was John Warnell. Now, if you know,
really?
on our side of the street, we're at 43rd and Washington. You cross the street, turns into Warnell.
Wow.
Yeah, all the way out. Now, the interesting thing about Warnell, he was a banker, but he was a slave owner. But then he kind of changed around and became an abolitionist. So
yes.
I think he probably gave us a pretty good deal for the property, and the members that were there, we built it. It started in 1936, and it finished in 1940.
Man.
And the lady next door that said that the horses smell so bad, she lived right next to the church and would give the guys water during the summertime as they were building. Now, the thing about, I think one of the things that kind of stood out, there was a lot of Black folks in that little area, and we never had any problems. We were surrounded all by white folks, but nobody had any problem with anybody. Everybody got along with everybody, and everybody knew everybody. We had our first homecoming, and that was with all the people that would come back to church that hadn't been there.
Yeah.
We got from like hams and roasts and all that stuff from a little store that was right next to Kelly's, and they were owned by some people from Czechoslovakia, and they knew the area so well they donated that, and because they knew what the church was doing. A lot of those stores give Black folks credit so that they could get what they needed through the week, and then they just pay them when they got through. Connie's, that was the Czechoslovakian people. They did it. Another grocery store was Bob's Market, and that was on 44th in Pennsylvania. Okay. He gave credit all the time, and it was good because hey, if you got kids and you need some milk, you need some milk. If you don't have any money, you just go send a kid around there and tell them put it on Mr. Jones's bill because it's all right. And the first homecoming we had there, we had 348 people in there. Now you've been there. How big it is.
I've been there.
Imagine 300 some people.
Wow.
I remember
tight fit, Doc.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, we had to put chairs sometimes at Easter and stuff so that we had enough room. Now, the thing about it, which is I think that kind of for me that stands out, it says Westport was founded in 1831. During the early years, some of the town's prominent slave owners and the founders of Westport, namely John McCoy, owned slaves. John Warnell, a banker, he owned slaves. Like I said, he became an abolitionist later on. Yeah. But even with the ones that owned slaves, they gave them a way that they could get their freedom.
That's unique.
The way that the church started, two brothers from Kentucky in 1870 came to the area and found that there was no Black church that they could worship in. So that's when they came up with the house, and they started with just a few members. And the unique thing about our church is that it has never left the Westport area. It's always been in Westport. Never did, like the other church that's older than us is Second Baptist over on 39th and Monroe. Well,
I know that church, yes.
Yeah, they started out on 10th and Oak. Then they moved there and moved. We never moved from Westport. Man. And they would have, the minister would preach at Second Baptist in the morning and St. James in the afternoon. And they had to get ministers from Kansas. Reason was you didn't know how to read in Missouri. Black people couldn't read in Missouri because it was against the law. Really? You could read in Kansas. You couldn't read in Missouri.
Wow.
So it was wild. Huh?
I I never knew that. That's interesting.
So it was a while that all we had was ministers that came from Kansas until everybody else caught up and was able to read, and it wasn't against the law. And they talk about, the fine home that John Warnell had, and it's still there, 6115 Warnell, and it's been restored. Missouri entered the Union as a slave state, and slaves are most likely sold in the building operated by Kelly's. That's what I just said.
Right. Yeah.
And I played baseball with the Kellys. Their dad was funny, and we almost won the Catholic League. And
Okay.
I thought it was just something they were saying, and I didn't even think about it till I got older. I was the only black kid on the league, but nobody. I didn't even think about it. We were just playing baseball and having fun, And so that has a lot of history, and they didn't have to do a whole lot to keep it up. I mean, paint it every now and then and kind of go. So, slavery in Westport was a particular institution in more than one way. First is the fact, and I'm reading from this thing from Joe Maddox.
Okay.
Oh, would you go from Joe Maddox, and it says slaves in Westport were able to buy their freedom. Slaves could earn $3 a week to work off and repay the price of their masters for them. This, coupled with the fact that the founding families in Westport set aside land for slaves to live, and makes this a unique chapter in the area's history that is worth exploring. A small segment grew from 43rd and Pennsylvania and kind of went from there. So the land a lot of it was set aside, so that was really a big thing. Also, we're looking at Edward Jennifer Steptoe, who was born in 1816 in Bedford County, Virginia.
Right.
And 2 years ahead of Ulysses S. Grant. So there was a lot of people that had to do with that area. I think the one thing that stood out for me in that area was that not only as a church, but as a community, we took care of everybody. So there was never a problem with what we did with taking care of each other. I think one of the biggest things that we looked at was the fact that we would, if you had a problem, I'm moving because people are turning TVs up and stuff, and so I'll
That's all right, sir.
House. So if just say that you had a family and you didn't have enough food for this, that, and the other,
we
get together as a community and give her. That was before food stamps, so nobody in Westport went without, for any time. And that was something as a child I watched, and I thought that was so cool that nobody had to wait and say, well, I got to wait till my check comes because I don't have any money to feed the family. Well, you could go up there and get credit so you could get milk and bread. If you needed some meat, we could help you with that too. So to me, that was really important. I think as you look at the pastors that came, a lot of them came with a lot of fire. They were young men. They wanted to try to, have a revival and do some things. And I think that's one of the things that's happening right now. We're looking at a transitional period. And I think in this 151 years we've been through this before, one of the biggest things that people talk to me about is, I know ministers in the district have said, you're kind of stranglehold because you don't have any place to park, and there's no community around there from you to get people from. And I tend to disagree with that because
very much so.
I look at it as I go to the east, we have Midtown Baptist Church, predominantly white, but when I go over there, there's a number of Black families. I'm not talking families that have teenagers or older kids. I'm talking families with younger kids.
Yes.
And you look at the area, it's all multicultural. So when you look at that, we have to open up the door and say that everybody I
Yeah.
think when we get that label of a black church, there's not going to be a black heaven, a white heaven, and a Mexican heaven. It's going to be one heaven. So we got to look at the same basis here on earth. Now, you take that, they've been around for about 10 years. They've got almost 900 people. Just in the time they've been here. You go to the west, you have Jacob's Well. Jacob's Well has been there probably about, I'd say almost 15, maybe 20 years. They have over 15,000. They have to do 3 services a day. So you can't tell me, and I talked to the associate minister. Associate minister said, Mark, the majority of people that we get, their zip code is here in Westport. So there's people there. It's just how do we get it? And one of the things I'm thinking about is social media. I'm gonna probably go to social media because with the COVID and the things that are going on now, people are not real apt to open up a door for somebody that's coming up saying, I want to talk to you about this.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's really amazing how the church has thrived throughout this whole period and how through everything it's went through. I mean, there's been a lot of history happening or going on around your church, and it's still in the same area. And one thing that really sticking out for me is the fact you talked about how much community was involved, how they took care of each other. I think that's something that our community is lacking nowadays is the caring for one another. Is the fact of the matter is you got a refrigerator full of food and your neighbor, you know they're going hungry, but I don't have a heart of Christ enough to say, well, here's some food so you can eat tonight. And I think that's missing in a lot. And I think a lot of things that you shared have been very effective and very, very informative. So Deacon Turner and I will keep talking after I let you all go for a minute, but this is going to be a conclusion of our Black History presentation. Once again, we'd like to thank Deacon Turner for sharing all that information. One thing I really want everybody to look at, especially young people who are watching, how it was illegal for us to learn how to read and write in the state of Missouri, was something I never knew. And a lot of us are wasting that free opportunity that we get on a daily basis. Being educated is a free gift and take advantage of it. So there's a few things I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna let you all go. Number one, if anybody wants to go to the Negro League Museum this month, the Kansas City Royals has combined and came in collaboration with the Negro League Museum. If anybody wants to go visit the museum through the month of February, can go free of charge. So all you have to go down there. The Kansas City Royals are paying for you to go see this wonderful national museum highlighting our African-American history in the sport of baseball. So please go take advantage of that. For any young person who is a junior or senior in high school, I'm part of an organization called the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials, COMTO for short. Every year we do what we call the Garrett A. Morgan Shadow Day in honor of the great inventor Garrett A. Morgan. And the young people participating in this will be in a position to be able to receive a scholarship up to $2,500 at our annual banquet in August of this year. So for more information, just go to COMTO, to COMTO.com or org, one or two, I can't remember, forgive me, but go to our website for more information and get in on that. And once again, Deacon Turner, we say thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. And for
my
everybody
pleasure,
else,
my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. And for everybody else, watch out next week as we continue our discussion. And everybody have a great day. Thank you.